All right, so for this video, we're going to talk about trapezoids and isosceles trapezoids. Trapezoids are pretty quick because they literally only have one property. The property for a regular trapezoid is simply that consecutive angles, remember consecutive means in a row, that are between parallel sides are supplementary. And remember that supplementary means adds up to 180. So to turn this into normal English, consecutive in a row, angles between parallel sides are supplementary. That is literally the only property of a regular trapezoid, a plain old normal trapezoid. So if we use that property, we're going to kind of do, I don't know why I call this a hug, but I was showing you on other videos. When you have, I should probably make these parallel, huh? When you have two angles between, isn't that, look, if I cover this up, same side interior angles? Really it is. So that's the property that translates into this. So we know this angle plus this angle has to be 180. So we would do 180 minus 76, which would be 104. So that's that side. And then the same deal on the other side. So here we have our other little hug. 180 minus 143. So that would be 40, 37 is 37 for that one. Now notice there's no relationship between these consecutive angles or those consecutive angles in a normal, regular trapezoid. But the isosceles trapezoids have a couple more properties. So in an isosceles trapezoid, we have the same consecutive angles. I'm going to write between like that, between parallel sides. And I'm just going to put equals 180 because I'm out of room. That's one property. Remember, the definition is that it has a pair of legs that are congruent. I'll write it here. Legs are congruent. And thinking of an isosceles trapezoid like an isosceles triangle might help you remember that it has base angles that are congruent. However, if I turn this way, these would be considered the base angles. So keep in mind there's actually two pairs of congruent base angles. All right, and as I'm sure is not actually surprising, diagonals are congruent. And one last property that makes sense if you actually stop to think about it, opposite angles are supplementary. Meaning these two, which makes a lot of sense because if these are congruent and these are supplementary, then so would those be. So these are the properties. Let's do some problems. If STUV is an isosceles trapezoid, find each angle measure. The first one that jumps out at me is the base angles. So that works there. And then as we talked about before, the little hugs, same side angles between parallel lines, consecutive angles, are supplementary. 180 minus 71 is 109, and that would work on this side also. That's really it. Angle T is 109, angle U is 109, angle V, is 71. That's it. All right. If PQRS is an isosceles trapezoid, find the measure of angle P. So we want this angle this time, which is empty right now. And there's a couple ways that you could look at it. The easiest way to me, I mean, right now, the first thing that jumps out at me is to add these together and set them equal to 180, because in an isosceles trapezoid, opposite angles are supplementary. But I also think about moving this 5x plus 4 here, because base angles are congruent. So I'm going to go with this one. Base angles are congruent here. And then I'm going to do that hug. Consecutive angles between parallel lines are supplementary. So you can see that either way you think about it, you would have ended up with the exact same equation. So I'm just going to solve that guy. So x equals 12. But the problem asked for the measure of angle P, so we need to substitute that in. 5 times 12 plus 4. Angle P is 64 degrees. I hope you're catching on. If MNOP is an isosceles trapezoid, and I'm going to start filling in this information as I read it. MP, this side, is 16x minus 13. NO is 9x plus 8. PN, here, I'll do this part this way. PN is 5y plus 19, and MO is 12y plus 30, or minus 37. Solve for x and y. So let's go with x first. This is isosceles, which means that the legs are congruent. So we have 16x minus 13 is equal to 9x plus 8. We're going to solve that. So you can see, just like before, we're using the information given to set up and solve equations. Now the next part is about diagonals. And what do you know about the diagonals of an isosceles trapezoid? They're congruent. So again, we're going to set those equal. I know you probably are like, why do you move each thing? Because I kind of do them in a different order each time. I like to keep my variable coefficient positive, so I usually move it that way. But it really doesn't matter. 46, is that right? 56. Forgot to carry it. Is 8. All right, so 2 different rules, 2 different equations, and we're good. And the last one, CDEF is an isosceles trapezoid. Find each missing angle. So we're going to find all of them. And first we need to look at what kind of angles these are. Well, if you remember, these are base angles, and base angles of an isosceles trapezoid are congruent. So 21x minus 16 is equal to 18x plus 5. Now you might be thinking, goodness, this is a lot to remember. And if you are, you would be right. But if you practice enough, you will be at the point where I'm at, where you're like, oh, I see it, and I can see it in multiple ways. Just don't be caught up in having to do it the same as me each time, because you might see it a different way. Don't think that because you did it different, it's wrong. It might be wrong, but it also could be right. All right, let's substitute that back in. 21 times 7 minus 16 is 131. And if we did it right, 18 times 7 plus 5 should also be 131. Great. Now we want to find F and E. So this is another hug situation. Consecutive angles between parallel lines are supplementary. So 180 minus 131 is 49 degrees. All right. I hope you like it. Bye.